Recording. Here we go.
Streaming. Give us a few seconds.
Well, hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay, now we are live. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, welcome to the Los Angeles Astronomical Society General Meeting, June 13th, 2022.
Run for the hills. It's the 13th. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry?
Wrong group.
It's Monday, not Friday.
And
Do
also,
we have
this
any
is
new
the
members
science
here
group.
tonight that we can
Introduce
introduce any new members? No,
Speak up.
new
Oh,
Remember
members.
to unmute.
all old members.
I'm an old member.
Speak for yourself.
A very old member. Me and Tim.
Yeah, I think I have to plead guilty to that myself.
Oh, Jack is the oldest. There you go. Sorry, I give it up to him.
I don't think Tim's with us yet.
Tim is not going to be here tonight.
What?
He's at Mount Wilson.
That's right.
That's a
yeah.
lousy excuse.
So we'll be taking care of that. I see that, did I see Spencer made it?
Spencer
No,
is
I haven't
traveling.
seen Spence.
Oh yeah, he's.
I am Spencer tonight.
Yes, you are. You're Spencer tonight?
Zoe is challenging
Okay.
me tonight.
I put the,
Oh, there he is. He actually was able to join.
Who?
oh, good.
Spencer.
No, that's Zoe doing that.
No. That's him.
Where? I don't
So I put the prize drawing link in the chat, and I'll do that a couple of times during the evening, so you can sign up for the prizes. And Alicia will be giving those away, and we'll be taking care of that. I can do the spreadsheet, and Spencer can relax. Wanted to bring up a couple of things. The committee reports we can do. One of them, let's start with Garvey, because I wanted to bring up Vance Tyree. We've been wondering where he's been. Well, he's been in the hospital. He had a triple bypass heart surgery, and also was treated for colon cancer at the same time. So while you're there,
Oh, Jesus.
so he made it through all of that, but because he was in the hospital for so long, he was having trouble. His legs got very weak, so he's in rehab so that he can start walking again. He just lost too much muscle mass in his legs to hold them up, but he did make it through all that. So our timeline on Garvey is slow, and now we know exactly why. I thought when I didn't hear from him for a couple of weeks, it was something serious. And oh, by the way, all of that happened about somewhere between 2 and 6 months after his wife died. So he's been going through some very, very serious life stuff. However, I'm sure that when he recovers, which he will, he'll be eager to get back to Garvey and pick up where we left off with the new mount. So everyone, it will happen. We really need him to come back and do that, and I really want him to come back and have that be something that he can come back to from all of the stuff that he's been going through. I think it will be good for him to have us there to hang with going forward. So Dave, you're going to be probably with him every week. So you'll know what the situation is, and everyone will. So anyone who goes to Garvey, if you see him there, give him condolences if you care to. Other than that, I think Garvey is up and happening again, doing the scouts. Dave is keeping the telescope going while Vance is recovering, and we are reinstigating the loaner program at Garvey as well. So we're going to get that going. I found someone who wants to take care of that. And we'll get some of the details worked out on how exactly we're going to be doing that probably at the next board meeting. So we'll get all of the telescopes together. Oh, here's Keith now. Keith Armstrong is our volunteer. He's going to take care of the loaner program at Garvey. Thank you, Keith. You've taken on something that's going to be pretty cool, I think. One
Yeah,
other thing-
our
Say
main
again?
problem.
Keith, you're muted.
Keith is amazing. Yes, we know.
Well, no, I was gonna say, the only real problem we had with the loaner program was sometimes, the people never gave back the scopes. We had to go pound on their doors and get them back. So I'm not sure what
Keith,
system we're gonna put.
Well, we
Keith,
got that
there's-
figured out pretty much this time, I think. And if anybody has, if any of the members have a loaner scope, because some of them went out like 3 years ago before COVID, and they've had them ever since. So if anybody has a loaner scope, I'd like you to bring it back to Garvey so we can re-inventory it, start it over again. But we've got a couple of things figured out. We're gonna have to have a good down payment, probably just to hold on your credit card to take the telescope. And then there will be some kind of an agreement where you have to come back to Garvey and contact Keith if you want to keep it for another month. So it'll be a monthly rental loaner. And if you do not show up, there will be a grace period, and then you will be charged a hefty amount, like for the entire telescope. So we don't have to worry about it. Probably like $600, something like that. So incentive to bring it back or reloan, that's fine. We had, I saw, Joe, do you have a current report for Ford for the fire? I know you were, are you up there now still?
Joe?
You're muted, yeah.
Joe's muted.
Yeah, there it goes.
Hello. Yeah, I'm not up there any. I left yesterday about 1:30 when I saw that the fire had jumped the road onto the side that I live on.
Oh,
Even though it was
Ouch.
down to the east of me, it was the Highway 2, the main road was closed, and it was blown in the direction of the other best route for me to get out of there. And I decided there was no reason for me to stay. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel that my cabin up there was threatened to burn. It's blowing away from Ford Observatory. I actually saw the fire start right across the street from my house, or I saw it starting. There was a fire truck, and I looked out there and saw a really small fire that continued to go. It was on a very steep hillside, but so it was really hard for them to get up there and do anything about it. But about 10 or 12 fire trucks showed up, and then a hotshot crew showed up, and they worked through the night, and they stopped any westward movement of it. Those guys did, and it was just spreading from burning. Not the wind was not blowing it that way. So, and then in the morning they dropped some Phos-Chek on that area. So, I think any westward movement's done. I know it's still burning up there, but I think it's in an area now where it's mostly shrubs and out of the trees and stuff. But I've never watched a forest fire before. I assume a fire burned through an area and moved on, but that's not the way it happens. That entire hillside burned for 2 days. I think there's different densities of material and shrubs. Some burns off and then other stuff ignites, and there's hundreds of hot spots all over that hillside or mountainside for 2 days. But when I got up Sunday morning before I left, it pretty much looked like it was out. But I could see there was some activity down to the east. And when I saw it billow up like that, and I couldn't tell if it jumped the road or if it was just a smoke, but that's when I don't have to stay up there. Decided it was time to go home.
Yeah,
Well,
a comment that I'll make on that. I've been watching the alert wildfire cameras. There's 2 of them up in the communication towers up above the observatory on Table Mountain. So I've been watching those, and last night it looks like there's at least 3 hilltops before it gets to Ford. So I think we're safe at Ford.
What about smoke damage?
No, because the smoke is blowing in the northeasterly direction, and Ford is northwest of the
Right.
fire. So it's in northeasterly direction. And the observatory is pretty secure as far as any smoke problems or anything like that. So we're not in too bad a shape up there.
Right, that's good to hear. I'm glad that's not coming
Oh,
in.
thank God.
Either one of you guys or Ford, so that's really,
Yes.
really good.
Thanks.
You wanted me to do the Ford report right now while I'm online?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we were open on Memorial Day weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all 3 nights. Thomas had some friends come up on Friday night. Unfortunately, seeing was no good. And we were up there Saturday night. We had probably anywhere from 20 to 40 mile an hour winds up there. But surprisingly, the seeing was fantastic. We saw a lot of objects in the telescope. We also had 12 people up there, which is a pretty good group up there on Saturday night. So we had a good time, and a lot of people were very enthused about Ford. They were helping out, finding things in the sky and doing all the logistics at Ford. And kind of Joe and I were just kind of sitting back, let everybody do it. So that was nice. Sunday, it was as bad as Friday. The seeing was not very good on Sunday night, but we did have one good night of seeing up at Ford. So yeah, we had a good time up there. It was good. It was a good star parties that weekend.
For Saturday.
So I think we're okay on that. We'll let the board and the membership know about upcoming Ford outings at Ford. We'll let the membership know when we're going to be up there again.
Okay, great.
Okay.
How about Lockwood? I think, Kevin, I think I saw you here, yeah?
Hi there. Well, unfortunately, Richard Horn was up there, and now I don't see him. I guess he's walked away.
I'm
Let's
here.
see. Here he is. I'll turn it over to Richard.
Oh, okay.
A little short Lockwood report, please.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. So, God,
Short.
I'm gonna forget most of the names. But there were about, I don't know, 8 to 10 of us up there between, I don't know, 10 and noon. And it was basically a brush clearance day. So the weed whackers were out in force. Of course, the Lockwood owned weed whackers died. So John sent me to Ace Hardware with his credit card to get a new one. Unfortunately, it ended up being a piece of crap, but whatever. We had another weed whacker. But overall, we cleared 80 or 90% of what we needed to clear based on a post I saw afterwards. There were a couple of spots that were missed, partially because some of the spots with the extension cords wouldn't reach, and the gas we didn't coordinate well enough to have the gas powered ones or electric ones running out in those edges, and etc. But bottom line is, we all agreed at the end of the day that we were going to meet fire department regulations, and that's really all that counts.
Good.
All right.
And that was pretty
thank you,
much it.
Richard.
It was turning to cloudy,
Good.
and a lot of us went home. So that was it. We got the brush cleared.
All right.
Good.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
All right, good. I'd like to let everyone know that we have openings for Mount Wilson for Saturday, June 18th. Would like to have some of you sign up and fill the rest of this up. I got maybe almost 10 spots open. So let's start hearing from the members. Fill that up. We also have openings for, let's see, July, August.
18th is a Saturday, right?
18th is a Saturday. All of our 60-inch nights are Saturdays. They're all half nights. We have one in August on the 27th. And then September is the 100-inch, but it is full. I have a couple of people on the waiting list. And then we have plenty of openings for October and November. So contact me at Mount Wilson coordinator at laas.org and let me know if you want to go to any of those nights. The 16-inch nights have been a lot of fun. So, okay. Greg, did you already talk about the Boy Scouts, or do you want to make that a definitive?
We have, yeah, that was just a conversation with a couple of people that already knew about the event.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm Greg Thompson and I'm on the board, and we're back up and running with our in-person astronomy merit badge class this Wednesday, June 15th, and again on July 13th, and again on August 10th. So I'll try to remind the membership. Half the class is them in the classroom. It is not an easy badge to earn. There's a fair amount of, classwork, sort of, high school to freshman college level astronomy involved, which is good. But also observing and knowing the night sky and all that is part of it. So we start around 7. If any membership would like to come to Garvey, you can bring a telescope, and then during the viewing session later in the evening, share your scope with the scouts, and that will help them fulfill a requirement. If you have a career in any astronomy related field, engineering or teaching or anything space related, you can join in the panel a little bit later at around 9:30. And that's so you can introduce, one of the requirements is to learn about astronomy related careers and what you did to prepare for that career. So certainly anyone's welcome with that kind of a background in the club to come and join in. So we usually end at about 10, and the scouts are filling out their final paperwork and getting their cards signed and so forth. If you're just interested, if you might be interested in volunteering to be an astronomy merit badge counselor, I would support you in that, and you could join in, by observation and learn what the scouts have to do and how we complete the badge. And there's scouts are supposed to be out tonight doing their prerequisite observing and drawings. Usually I get about a 50% rate on that ahead of time because it's pretty homework-like to them. But it does get them out under the sky and doing some moon drawings and the motions of Ursa Major and things like that. So, like I said, it's not a gimme. They do have to learn quite a bit. So I'll put my email address in the chat if you have any questions or you'd like a copy of the flyer. Maybe you know a scout that would like to sign up for a class, or you just like to contact me with any questions about volunteering or the program. So that's the pitch this Wednesday night, and 2 more Wednesday nights, one in July and one in August. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate the support.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Zolly, can you speak to outreach? We've been doing some good outreach, and we have a couple more coming up.
Yeah, in a few words, we had a school, and then it was like a very a hazy, overcast, very, very thin layer. By the time we started, the sun was behind tree lines, but it was still no problem. Very short time after we got some so-called soccer holes, and then we were able to get the moon on, and then everything is turned out to be just fine. So the kids and the parents were very happy, and thanks for Keith for showing up and then being very active over there. So that's it.
Do we have still something coming up? Do we have that science cube? Is that still in the future?
Yeah, 25th, 26th.
Okay. All right, very good. Also,
there's going to be a daytime observation. So we're gonna have to bring some solar filters.
Okay, and Evan is going to bring that double solar setup that we have at Garvey. Okay, great. Okay. John O'Brien is not here, so we don't have a treasurer's report. And I don't know if we want to do a secretary's report, or do you just want to sit back? Where'd you go? Spencer, do you want to do anything tonight or no?
Spencer's not here.
Spencer's here.
No, he's not.
Well, he's
Yes,
maybe muted.
No,
No,
Zoe's,
geez.
Well, somebody named Sue who is here.
Zoe.
No.
Hi. Hi.
Spencer is here.
Yeah, he
I'm here.
finally unmuted.
Zoe's running it.
No, I know
I'm
he
here,
is,
but-
but Spencer's still here. I just wanted to know if he wanted to say anything, that's all.
I'm okay. Thanks. I'm just listening in.
Oh, he
Okay,
is.
very good. Okay,
That was good.
well,
Ventriloquist.
we have no new members who wanted to introduce themselves. We have all the old members. We've been through the committee.
Actually,
reports.
If I
Yes.
may, sorry, excuse me, guys. I probably should have spoken up earlier. Not a new member. I've been a member for about a year, and some of you may recognize me. I've been I was a long time telescope demonstrator at Griffith. My name is Jim Mann,
Oh,
but I very seldom make meetings. So hi, guys. I see a lot of
Hey
familiar faces. If I'm still a planetarium lecturer at Santa Monica College, but we're doing everything on Zoom these days, which sucks because, you know, no dome shows. But I did want to throw out a general invitation if anyone is interested. I once a year grab a group camp reservation up at the Cedar Flats group camps up by the bristlecone pine forests. And this year we did it early, trying to avoid fire smoke. We can take about 30 people. We never have that many. We just pass the hat. This year we got it for June 26th, 27th, 28th. I know that's a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I know that's not necessarily convenient days for people who actually work for a living. But if anybody is interested, it's primitive camping. It's pinyon juniper country. If it's up near Grandview Campground, but we're by ourselves, so nobody's got any Coleman lanterns. And it's bring your own water, tent spaces, shade structure, pit toilets, places for tents, and a couple of small RVs. If anybody's interested, I'll go ahead and type my email address in if anybody wants to get a hold of me.
I'm going to drop that in the chat.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great.
I'll do that right now. Any LAAS members who are interested would be more than welcome. It's if we manage to avoid the fire specter, the smoke specter, it can be pretty dark up there. It can be a real pleasant place to be.
Great. You know, the other thing I wanted to bring up is at Garvey, we had in the past been making mirrors for members could make mirrors, but we have lost our glass guru. So if any of you know anyone who can teach someone else how to grind and polish a mirror, please contact me, and I would like to talk to them. Even if you hear of somebody or heard of somebody that might have been able to do that, contact me and I'll track them down. I would like to start that going again. Okay, anything else that I'm missing or want to bring up? Otherwise, we will.
Wanted to
Yes.
just quickly introduce myself as well. My name is Varun. I joined towards the end of last year, but this is my full sort of first meeting that I'm attending from the beginning. If any of you saw the email, the emails going around on the group, there was one with the subject of visual observing from Santa Monica. I'm the same Varun that's been asking questions there, and I'm happy to report that I am 2 for 2 on the recommendations on the telescopes that I've purchased. I'm just waiting for the June gloom to die down a little bit in order to get some more use out of it again. So, well, thank you everybody for those that responded, and look forward to meeting you all at Garvey and other events as and when time permits.
That's very good, and thank you, everyone. I don't get into the group chat so much. That's a lot of technical stuff and a lot of recommendations, but I am so glad when I do. I see a lot of it go by. I don't participate much, but I'm really glad that there's so many people that are sharing and helping other members just all of the time, every day. every week. It's really good to see that. So thank you, everyone, for helping everyone. Well, let me share my screen and we will introduce our speaker for this evening. Everyone can see Mr. Nakamoto? Yes?
Yes.
God, I look young.
Okay, we got your screen. David, wasn't that like a 20-year-old picture?
It's not that old. 10 years at most. Okay, let's not push the digits around. Okay.
You sure it's 10? Yeah, are you counting the 2 years for COVID? Is it really
Well, actually,
12?
that's the size of the scope. It's a 10-inch reflector, but as to how old the picture actually is, I'm not saying.
Well, we have Dave tonight who's going to talk to us about astronomy history. And is it Pluto specifically, Dave?
No, this is well, I'll describe it when I get to it.
Okay. Well, we're lucky to have him. He's a longtime member, very active at Garvey. Utmost star hopper that I think I've ever known. If you want to find something and you don't have another way to get there, Dave will get you there. So Dave,
That's great. You just put the world on my shoulders.
No, you're fine. No. It was on your shoulders before. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, you got to unshare the screen.
I unshared. It's all yours. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see if I can.
And anyone who's not going to talk, please mute, as I will as well.
Let me get this thing going.
Don't forget the prizes for tonight. For the screen.
Okay, this was the original title of my talk. Now, this is not the complete history of how Neptune was discovered or all the history that occurred after it was discovered, because
I'm only seeing your name. I'm not seeing anything on your screen.
I thought I was sharing this darn thing.
Not yet.
Let me double check. Where is it? Somebody's still sharing something else, so far as I can figure out. Who's sharing? Share
Nobody.
screen. Okay, I'm not sure why. Okay.
There you go. You're in.
All right.
There you go.
You got it.
Now let's start this darn thing. Well, let's get going. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. The purpose of this talk was originally to count how many people had the opportunity to discover Neptune and did nothing about it. Obviously, only one person discovered it. And even though he didn't gave the credit to Leverrier, without Johann Galle and Heinrich d'Arrest, Neptune would never have been discovered. And the reason why I believe that will show up very quickly. But in the beginning, as everybody knows, there was John Couch Adams, who in 1843 didn't have a degree yet, was working toward it. He had already, a couple of years before, noted in his personal journal that the problems with Uranus's orbit was something that he wanted to solve because it was very intriguing as to what was causing Uranus to not be where Newton's theory of gravity predicted it would be. So here, let me get this thing out of here. I can't read what that thing's there. So in 1843, he starts the investigations. Now remember, this was the paper and pen era, so there were no slide rules, there were no computers. You had to do everything by hand. And basically, it's taking the data on where Uranus is and trying to figure out what the variances are, and then trying to figure out what to do with that data to see if it pinpoints back to another planet. Now, to adequately do that, John had to use data on Saturn's orbit, Jupiter's orbit, as a first cut approximation. Because everything in the solar system, with maybe the exception of Mercury, which is too close to the sun, is affected in one way or another by those two giants. Now, in October of that year, he sends a letter to Chalice, who we'll meet in the next slide. He's asking for positions, because the more positions that you have for this calculation, the more accurate the calculation is. And Chalice happened to be the director of the Cambridge Observatory. That's his photograph there. So he receives, now notice the time frame. In October of 1843, he sends the letter. He finally, Chalice finally receives it on February the 3rd of 1844, the next year. Yes, mail was notoriously slow in those days. So part of this evolving story is the fact that there were many people trying to communicate with one another, and thanks to the mail system, they had a tough time doing it. Chalice realizes that he can't supply, his observatory doesn't have the data that Adams wants, so he sends it to Airy. Now, who's Airy? George Bidwell Airy. He was the Astronomer Royal, which means he's the top dog of astronomy in Britain, and that means he's also the director of the Royal Observatory at Greenwich. He has the data. As a matter of fact, he pretty much sends all of his Uranus data to Adams. And then he asks Adams, talk to me directly. Don't forget about Chalice. I'm interested. So Adams, it's back in his ballpark again. Now, unfortunately, working toward your degree, part of that at St. John's College, to help pay his way, he had to tutor other people, and that workload delays his calculations for yet another year. So already we got delays built in here, but he eventually does it. And in September of 1845, he finishes the first calculation. So this is the first time he has anything to report on what it was that he thinks is happening to Uranus's orbit. You know, by the way, there were several competing theories, modifications to Newton's gravitation theory. The mass of Saturn may be slightly off. The mass of Uranus may be slightly off, but none of these really fit in. And at this point in time, in September of 1845, Adams comes to the realization that the best explanation is we got another planet beyond Uranus. And he sends that letter to Chalice, which is strange because Airy told him, send it directly to me. So I don't know what's going on here, but this is history. I didn't write this. This is history. And so Chalice replies, he should send it to Airy, obviously. So Airy receives it sometime in 1845. And for some reason that is not quite recorded, he ignores Adams. He ignores the letter. He even refuses to meet with him on several occasions. So 1 month later, in October of 1846, he finishes the second set of calculations. Now he has a very firm prediction on the planet's location. He's starting to get an idea of what the observers might look for, that the disk is going to be smaller than Uranus's, that chances are it'll be roughly the same color as Uranus. That's an assumption. That's not really a prediction, but it's fairly reasonable. And of course, it's going to be a lot fainter because he also predicts it's going to be twice as far away from the sun as Uranus is. And Airy never publishes Adams' work. So at this point in time, in 1846, only two people know what Adams is up to, other than Adams himself, Airy and Chalice. Amazingly, even though this second publication, this second prediction has a position in it, he also never starts the search. And the big fat $64 question, after we note that this is the first missed opportunity, and I lost count after 6 or something like that, we'll get to that later. So why? I mean, think about it. He's a trained scientist. He's trained in astronomy. He runs an observatory, for crying out loud. Why could he not engage in this search? Well, believe it or not, even though he was top-notch in mathematics at his college, for some reason, he dismisses the idea that mathematics could make this prediction. It's true that almost all mathematics, when applied to astronomy at this point in time, they were taking data to improve the prediction of where the known planets were. But to say that there's an unknown planet at this location, nobody had ever tried that before. And so, but another reason is by all accounts, Airy was very snobbish, class conscious. He considered himself the upper crust, and he was very arrogant towards any younger scientists or young people in general, young scientists in particular. So he's definitely the wrong person to try and push this work on. Now, let me get this thing out of the way again. There we go. Now comes some curious stuff. Now we backtrack to September of 1845. That's the first time that Adams tries to get a paper published concerning this prediction of his. Airy shows this to William Dawes, who unfortunately I cannot locate any picture whatsoever, either in my book references or on the internet. So we don't know what he looks like. Now, unlike Airy and Chalice, Dawes is an amateur. He actually does something else for a profession. So after Airy shows him this thing, he wants to look. And the big fat question is, well, why didn't he? Because obviously he didn't discover the planet. Well, his observatory at that time was being remodeled. So he had no way to look up in the sky for this. He knew of the prediction, but he couldn't do a thing about it. So there's missed opportunity number 2. But he also tells a brewer named William Lassell. Notice the date. We're still in September 1845. It hasn't been a year for Adams' second. This is the first prediction. And Dawes tells him, hey, you know, this guy is saying there's a planet in this position. You have pretty good equipment. Maybe you could take a look at it. Now, if you think William Lassell had a lame excuse, you got to hear this. So why didn't he? He sprained an ankle somehow, and he couldn't do the search. But of course, ankles heal. And when it did heal, he wanted to look and he couldn't find the calculations. He lost them. How did they lose them? This housekeeper tossed it away. Now, I'm not sure, and it's not recorded, why Lassell didn't go back to Dawes and say, hey, man, do you have another copy of that prediction? We're still well over a year before Galilei finds this planet. So there's plenty of time to look. But for one reason, they didn't do it. That's at least missed opportunity number 3. So now we go back to 1846. And now remember, Adams has not published because he can't get Airy to do it. But he's alerted key people in British astronomy, hey, there's a planet out, at least I think there's a planet out there. Let's see what's happening. So in June in 1846, he sends part of his calculations to Airy. Now, you're gonna love this. Airy received it, he praised it, and he took no action. Now, before everybody dogpiles on Airy, we'll continue with the story because this just gets better and better. However, Airy at least sent it to Chalice because he knew Chalice was in contact with Adams, and now this other guy, this French guy, did basically the same work with different methods, but came to the same general prediction. So he sent it to Chalice, implying that, and Airy was implying that, I'm too busy with the Royal Observatory to do this search. However, Cambridge can do this, right? Well, Chalice didn't like being told by Airy what to do. I mean, he was the director of the Cambridge Observatory. So he did nothing for a month. And then when he did, and I'll linger on this slide just for a little while, that search methodology, what the heck does that mean? It means that instead of looking with his best telescopes at the position first that was predicted, and then in the general area, instead of doing that, for some insane reason, Chalice decides he's going to search the entire ecliptic, 10 degrees up from it, 10 degrees down from it. And this is even after he received the third prediction from Leverrier, which is coming up. Now, he saw Neptune in the first week of this search. Why didn't he report it? Because he plotted stars, but he never checked to see if any of those stars moved. And that will come back to haunt him later on. And this was at least missed opportunities 4 and 5, if not more than that. So they're piling up, but this is far from the end. Now, Leverrier, you're thinking to yourself, well, I mean, he's a Frenchman. Couldn't he ask the French professional astronomers to do something for him? Well, he did. 3 times he both published his results and he also gave a talk about them to the French Astronomical Society, at least some professional astronomers. They all slapped them on the back and said, hey, man, this is great work. And then they did absolutely nothing. I don't know how many professionals were involved in this thing, but by now our count is in the dozens, probably. It's absolutely amazing. All the professional astronomers so far, Airy, Chalice, all the French ones apparently, knew of this prediction and didn't even bother to look. They didn't even include it in an observational program. In other words, you'd think that they would think that, okay, we're going to sweep through this area. Let's look for his planet. They didn't even do that. So nobody, to this point in time, June 1846, nobody looked through a telescope for this thing. But don't blame just the British and don't blame just the French, because in one of my sources, I uncovered something. Let's see. Okay. One side note here. Patrick Moore, the famous British amateur astronomer, he wondered why didn't Adams and Leverrier do the search themselves? Well, it's actually quite simple. And this may seem funny, but it's not. They were theorists. They were mathematicians. They were not observers. I doubt that any of them knew how, that they were not associated with any of the professional observatories. They only knew the directors only when they were asking for data, as Adams did, or some other reason. We're talking about the 1840s. Meade wasn't around. Celestron wasn't around. Telescopes were very expensive and they were hard to get a hold of. They were basically not mass produced. They were custom jobs. Basically, you ordered a telescope of a certain type, aperture, focal length, and then you waited 2 years to get it as they put it together slowly. One other thing that the professionals claimed was the professional astronomers too busy with their own work. We gotta make observations for navigational purposes. We gotta make observations to make the other planets to fit them in a little better. And it's like, oh, we can't go into research because Lord knows how long it would take to do it, which is another thing that will come back and haunt them. And as we all know, observational astronomy is not like mathematical or theoretical astronomy. Theoretical astronomy, you could, now these days, you can sit down on your laptop and do it. Back then, you could sit down with a pen and paper and do it. Observational astronomy means you have to know how to use equipment. You need to know how to find stuff in the sky. You need to locate a spot in the sky. Since you're looking for something in this case, whole different ball of wax. But as I said, don't blame just the French and the English. Sears Cook Walker, an American astronomer, an assistant at the U.S. Naval Observatory, one of the biggest observatories back then and pretty much even right now. He received on June 1st, 1846, the second paper he had. Now he knew where this planet might be. He wanted to start the search naturally. Unfortunately, notice assistant at the U.S. Naval Observatory. So when he went to his boss, Matthew Maury, who was the director of the observatory, he was basically told, we can't accommodate a research program. The routine work is going to tie up everything for several months. Notice the trend here. Every time, except for Dawes and except for Lassell, who's the reason they didn't search is beyond me. But whenever they went to the professionals, Leverrier and Adams were blocked at every step. Pretty much ever since they came up with the prediction. Before that, they were okay. After that, nobody wanted to look, nobody wanted to make the effort. And so now we return to Leverrier. Now I must put a footnote here. Adams was the type of person who, I wouldn't say he was easygoing, but he wasn't very driven. So, I mean, he could get mad as the next guy, but he's not going to push his own agenda that hard. And maybe that's part of being English. I don't know. Leverrier, being French, got fed up with everybody, got fed up with Airy, got fed up with Chalice, got fed up with everybody in France, and finally said, you know what, heck with you guys, I got to look for a young person. Of course, he didn't know about Dawes, he didn't know about Lassell, but that's another story. And then in 1846, he remembered, gee, I received a dissertation from a Johann Galle in Berlin, Germany, asking what I thought of this thing. He's obviously young. He has a dissertation for a PhD, the equivalent of a PhD. So maybe he's open to the idea of looking for it. And he's with the Berlin Observatory. He's got equipment. Now, as I said, he's assistant at the, well, I didn't say this. Galle was assistant at the Berlin Observatory. So he was one step down from his boss. He did send the dissertation in 1845, which is why, and for some reason it took a year for Leverrier. And Leverrier, first off, he realizes, well, gee, this guy gave it to me a year ago. I should at least say something good about it. So he wrote back to him and says, oh man, this is great stuff. You really did a fantastic job and all. And by the way, could you look for a planet that I predicted? And now this is one of the few photographs I'm able to find of a young Galle. Almost every other photograph is of this guy when he was 80 years old. But this is what he probably looked like when he looked for Neptune. So he's fairly young. Now he has to go to his boss. Here we go again. He had to go to his boss to use the 8-inch Berlin refractor, because this prediction, this last prediction from Leverrier, stated that this is 8th mag, so you need aperture, and it's going to be a disk maybe 2 arc seconds. So he said, oh man, we need magnification. But the first thing we got to find is we got to find a suspect. And it's also going to be that peculiar off color that no star has, and this is my own personal observation. Every time I'm seeing Uranus and Neptune, one reason I know I'm looking at it is because of two things. Unless it's severely bad turbulence, they stay steady. They don't twinkle. And unless it's, again, severe turbulence in the atmosphere, they have this off gray, bluish green color that no star ever has. So he had an idea of what he's going to look for. Now, that particular night, Enki is celebrating his birthday. So he has a party going on in his place. Therefore, he wasn't going to use the scope anyway. As a matter of fact, nobody was going to use the scope. So he almost refused. Again, it's this mindset of we are professionals. We are not in the area of research and discovery. We just make observations of positions and make more and more accurate star charts. But of course, Galilei is very persistent because, look, boss, have you heard of any discovering a new planet after Herschel did? And he said, no. And goes, well, we got a prediction. Finally, Enki relented with the famous words, let us oblige the gentleman from Paris. Very offhandedly. He still didn't think anything of the prediction. Now, there was a young pre-PhD student by the name of Heinrich DRS. He happens to be listening to this thing, although I'm guessing that Galilei was getting more and more passionate about, look, boss, you're not using the telescope. Nobody's using the telescope. What harm could it be for me to use a telescope? And then he realizes, because he hadn't seen the prediction, he realizes Galilei was aiming for. As I said, he's a young graduate student, and he begged to go along. He says, I want to get involved in this search. And Enki gave them his thing. Now, the first thing they did was they looked exactly at the predicted position. They claimed they didn't see anything in that prediction. Now we know that that's actually true. The prediction was off. And I'll show you what that is a little later on. So they said, okay, now we got to do a star by star search. Well, how are we going to do it? Well, if we can find a chart to the 8th magnitude, then any 8th magnitude object that we don't see on the chart has got to be the planet. Unfortunately, they start looking and looking and looking at the Berlin Observatory's library, and they couldn't find one that was the necessary magnitude limit or had the accuracy until DRS found a spanking brand new chart. And apparently it was semi-hidden because Enki was going to use it as part of an extended asteroid search program. And he didn't want anybody else to have access to that chart that wasn't at the Berlin Observatory because he wanted to keep that edge that he had this chart. And so they started checking off stars. They knew better. They knew it wasn't at the indicated position. One look and they knew. So they start tooling along and checking out one star after another using the setting circles, my favorite tool, using setting circles. And he called, Galilei's up there on the scope and he's calling out positions. And if it's like the scope we got at Monterey Park, he's leaning over in the ladder or the chair or whatnot and trying to read these things in semi-darkness. And meanwhile, DRS is saying, that's on the chart, that's on the chart, that's on the chart. And in less than 1 hour of searching, from the time that they looked at the exact spot to the time they found it, they found it. 1 hour. That's it. Which shows those professionals, once again, where they must have had they must have had another agenda, because this was not rocket science. This is not hard. Now, I find it very interesting that they rushed back to Enki's birthday party, and when they told him that they had seen the planet, oh, now he wants to drop his birthday party and rush to the observatory and observe the planet. Now, I didn't put it here, but initially they just knew it had to be the planet because there wasn't any star in that position. But the seeing was terrible that night, so they couldn't tell they couldn't keep it in observation long enough to tell if it moved or if it showed a disk. But Galilei had the exact position, so he wrote it down. Next night, the seeing was much better. All three of them, yeah, Enki was there with them, went to the scope. They confirmed it moved, and they confirmed it had a tiny disk. So that was the confirmation. The next night, they confirmed it. And this is the chart, not the chart that they used, but this is a chart that was developed obviously by hand for some reason, showing the position that in 2011, Neptune was very close to its discovery position, because that's, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but that's it right there. It was much closer to Leverrier's predicted position, which is over here. And you could tell that if you have a 1 degree field of view and 1 degree is down here, 1 degree field of view, yeah, they missed it. So that's why it didn't take them that long. They just tooled along the ecliptic and they saw this. Now Adams is all the way to the heck over here. And remember, just a couple of things, because I think that's, oh yeah, lessons. I want to get to that just in a while. Remember, so far, right at this moment of discovery, nobody but 3, 4, 5 guys in all of England knew Adams' prediction. He had not published yet. He couldn't get Airy to publish it. Leverrier had published. So because of that factor, I think it's right that he should be solely credited with it, because in science, if you don't publish, it wasn't Adams' fault, naturally, he didn't get published, but if you don't publish, you have very iffy grounds to claim a discovery. Because basically it's the old, well, haha, you kept it to yourself. What use was that to the rest of us? If you don't tell us, we don't know where to look. And if we don't know where to look, we can't verify your observation. And so I think it's correct. Also, considering the separation between the two predictions and where Neptune was finally discovered, I think it's 2/3 should favor Leverrier's discovery. Now, but the important thing to this story for me is your perceptions and your expectations, especially, drive the search for knowledge. That's just a simple, that's just an easy way of saying you see what you want to see, and you also don't see what you don't want to see, which is why, as myself an observer, and I do visual astronomy, I don't listen to predictions. I mean, if they're really faint, and I know that's beyond the scope of my eyes, equipment, and whatnot to image or see, I won't try. But if it's borderline, I try, because I found that all this published data on all these objects, there's a gray area where maybe your eyes are a little better, maybe your optics are a little better, maybe your camera's a little better, you will see the object, which is why even though Garvey Ranch Park is the one of, if not the worst, one of the worst light polluted skies I've ever observed from, I continue to try and observe from there. So if you think you're going to see something like Galilei did and DRS did, chances are you got a good chance of seeing it. If you don't even bother looking, like Airy, Chalice, all the French astronomers, Maury for the Americans, you're not going to see it. As Louis Pasteur said, you can read it there, if your mind is prepared for a discovery, that means when it presents itself, you will realize it's there. But what I like is what Max Planck said, which is that, and that's true too. Basically, you have to wait till all the old farts die so that you can, these new ideas can sprout out of the ground and bear fruit. Because the old guys have an investment, by and large, in the old way of seeing things. So they don't want to upset that, because all their funding money, everything, their careers come from that. And they forgot that at one point they were the young guys who wanted to establish themselves, and they were the ones that latched on to ideas that were not popular at the time. So I think the lesson here for the amateur astronomers is you don't necessarily have to pay attention to authority. Go out there and look. Who knows? Because there are things up there that can change the very next day. I can name, for me personally, I can name Comet Holmes and a nova in Delphinus that fortuitously blew itself up, so that the very next night was a Griffith Public Star Party night, and I got to show it to various people optically, visually. And as soon as the word got out, I was seeing something that was not there the night before. I had 20, 30 people lined up to look through my scope at a public star party. Never happened to me before. So now, my sources for these are primarily this. They're all excellent books on the complete history of the discovery of Neptune, especially the first one. As for Patrick Moore's little reference, that's actually Out of the Darkness, the Discovery of Pluto, co-written with Clyde Tombaugh. And now you can unmute yourselves, and if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them. Let me quit sharing the screen, unless somebody wants to go back to previous slides. I'll keep it up.
Give it up.
Nice history lesson, Dave. Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but I like this type of history lesson because it teaches something that we all have to be aware of, be amateur or professional, and that is be careful of your preconceptions and your conceptions, because if you're wrong, you missed out on something.
That's
just the way it is.
A lot of people don't realize the little back things, the way you're talking about the things that we've never would even think about. And that was really fascinating. Interesting stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dave, that was actually really awesome, because even from somebody that's not an observer, that was insanely educational and very enjoyable.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Richard. Trying to get this sidebar a little wider. Okay, there's Daryl. Oh, maybe I do it this way.
Zoom doesn't work that well.
Well, I'm looking at show grid video. I'm not sure what that is.
Hey, David, it's Greg. I got a question for you.
Sure, shoot it.
Okay. Let's see if we can make of this. Would you draw any parallels between this historical story and what is currently going on with Brown and Constantine over at JPL on Planet X?
Yes and no, but there's a big difference for me anyway. I've yet to see a predicted position for their Planet X. I mean, the evidence that Planet X is there is, I would call, strong circumstantial. But remember, with Neptune, even though Adams was a little further off, he wasn't that far off. He was only like maybe a couple of degrees off from where it actually was discovered. And Leverrier was even closer. So when Galilei and DRS went to look, the first thing they did was look at the exact position. They said, well, nothing's there. Well, there has to be experimental error. Everybody knows that. So they started tooling in that area, and in less than an hour, visually checking off stars using settings. Oh God, this is, when I think about it now, it's like, God, these guys are really dedicated. They're visually checking off stars using setting circles and a printed star chart. And in less than an hour, they said, that one's not there. That star is not on the chart. They had it. So far as I know, nobody has made a solid prediction or even a degree-wide circle as to where to look for Planet X.
No, the area that they predicted is the size of a constellation, right? So
yeah, and that's too
much.
much.
A huge area. It's somewhere in this area of the sky, but there's that sort of fantasy in the back of your head because there's a lot of amateur gear that might just reach that level of magnitude with really good skies. And if you happen to point at the right place, you know, you might find it. I don't know, maybe.
Hey, Dave, I've
Yes.
got a question for you. 8-inch refractor, is that the best they had in those days, I guess? So that was it, huh?
No, because you got to remember, William Herschel had a reflector and the best telescope in all of Europe, which he proved to both the English and the French by at least 1780s, because that the 6-inch scope, which was a 6-footer, actually, is how he labeled it, was the one he discovered Uranus in. And he knew this wasn't a star and this wasn't a nebula because it showed a disk. And no other telescope at the time could do that. And his was not the biggest scope at the time either. So they did have reflectors. They did have, as a matter of fact, I think, if I remember right, Lassel's scope, I know he eventually got a 20-inch reflector of some design. But I mean, for that era, that's like a 60-inch scope. Now it's huge.
David, you said something earlier that kind of caught me off guard. You were talking about the telescopes they were using were near enough to 2 arc seconds.
No, I don't think I said that. I think you must have misconstrued me.
I did. Okay, because
I said that the diameter of Neptune is 2 arc seconds, and it is 2.4, 2.5. So you gotta listen more carefully. But that as to how much these can resolve, a lot as we all know, a lot depends also on seeing conditions. And remember, the Berlin Observatory. I wish I had a photograph of it. The Berlin Observatory is called the Berlin Observatory because it's either just within or just outside the boundaries of the town. So in other words, you got this tremendous source of light pollution, and people say, well, they just had candles and fireplaces, and and a lot of smoke from said candles and fireplaces. So they had haze, they had street lights. I mean, they're better than we are now, but it's not like pristine dark sky conditions for either the Royal Observatory, the Cambridge Observatory, whatever they got in France. The Paris Observatory for sure is in the middle of the city. And
so David, my scope equates to with my camera sensor size and all that, about 2 degrees of the night sky, a little tiny bit less, but close enough. How does that equate to what they were using?
I don't know because I don't know what eyepiece that they were using. Remember, this is pre-photographic era too. You couldn't take a photograph of a section of the sky and compare it with another date. You had to do everything by the eyeball. So depending upon the eyepiece that they had, we have the equivalent scope of a Gary Ranch Park. If you use the equivalent of a 50 millimeter eyepiece, you have at least a 1 degree field of view. So that's what they were working with. Fortuitously, Neptune was very close to where Leverrier predicted it. Fortuitously, for a couple of reasons. One, they were using his prediction. Nobody knew about atoms yet. Number two was because it was only a degree or so off, they didn't have to move the scope a whole lot. They centered any star that they found in there, read off the coordinates, and Galilei read the coordinates off. Diarest then checked it on the chart, and they did it purely manual all the way through. And then all of a sudden, in less than an hour, Galilei called off the coordinates. There was a pause, I imagine, down on the observatory floor, and that's when Diarest said, "There's no star at that position." Then they knew.
So you're saying that they were varying between 1 degree and or less of visual viewing.
Yeah, 8-inch f15 refractor. Yeah, we got an f12, but that hardly makes a difference. 12, 15.
For visual, that doesn't matter.
Well, it doesn't matter much for, it means you scrunch for both. It means that you have a slightly narrower field of view in an F-15, but you're still dealing with about based upon the Garvey Ranch scope, you're still dealing with about a degree field of view.
Okay.
And the eighth mag stars, let's go back to that chart.
Oh, you're right. If because you have a higher stop, you
right.
don't see as much.
Yeah. See, the smallest little pinpoints of light here are about 8th mag or maybe a little less. So you could see in this field of view, they didn't have to check that many stars. Can you imagine if this thing had been stuck in the middle of the Milky Way? That would, I would need a stiff Brewhauser before I go on a search like that, because I need some fortitude here. But this was relatively easy. We're far and away from the Milky Way. We're basically in, it's Aquarius. I see down there, Ida Aquarii. So basically in Aquarius, the Milky Way is many tens of degrees north of you. And you're very close, as I recall, you're very close to looking at down, almost directly down out of the galactic disk, because the South Galactic Pole is not that far away from this location. It is not. So you don't have that many stars. So they lucked out so many ways that they lucked out. But what they did, what Galilei and DRS did, any other professional observatories could have easily done in the 1 hour it took them to do it. And did any of them do it? No. So in my books, they're all in the crap heap of history. The only reason we mention them at all is because, I'm not kidding, I don't mince words. The only reason we mention them at all is as a cautionary tale of, see, if you don't look, you ain't gonna see it. In astronomy, it's simple. The astronomy is as simple as that. You want to observe something, go out there and look. Of course, right now it's so clouded over. I'm glad for this meeting. Something to do, because I took a look at 5 o'clock. I think, well, maybe 10 o'clock I'll set up. Nah, I don't think so. This looks ugly, and it's blowing pretty good about where I live.
David,
next question. Yes.
I did a light painting seminar last weekend, not 2 days ago, but 8 days ago, out in Joshua Tree, and it was pretty funny because part of what we were going to do is Milky Way and star trails, and we had 50% cloud cover. And it's
for that.
But I have some pictures that are mind-blowingly amazing. They're just not regular astrophotography stuff.
Yeah. Looking at this slide, once again, I see there is one 8th mag star there. So that's, I mean, it won't look like a blob like that, but that gives you some idea of what Neptune may have looked like on that date right there. So it will compare favorably with that star. It'd be fainter than these guys, all of these guys. Bright. These guys are fainter than Neptune. These guys are slightly brighter. In fact, if that's 7.3, I'll bet you that's a 7th mag star too. There's a 7.5 mag star. So, but they're not that many in that magnitude range. That's the whole point of this exercise. If any of those, and I conservatively estimate about 24 people, because I don't know how many French observers attended the 3 presentations that Leverrier did, and but I imagine it's all the professional people and probably a few amateurs in there, and they did nothing. They did absolutely no looking.
David, this is a dumb question because I'm not an astronomer, I'm a photographer. So you've got an 8.6 magnitude star,
right?
Insanely close to a 7.8 magnitude planet. But now wait a minute. The only thing I know about planetary is the brightest stuff in the sky is always a planet. How in the world did they decide that the dimmer planet was a planet instead of a brighter star?
Observationally, they knew because they did not plot anything. These are probably 9th mag stars. They didn't see any, they didn't plot any stars in this position. Notice that's maybe the closest that came, and it's much fainter than 8th mag. So therefore they knew once they saw this, that this most likely is the planet. Now, the other two ways to verify it is that, can you see a disk at high magnification? The seeing was so crappy the first night they couldn't do that. Second night they clearly saw a disk. They recorded that. Of course, and then the third thing is in my books is coloration. I'll bet anybody dollars, anything, any amount of money that you could pick any star in this field of view. They will not, if Neptune was there, it will not have the color of any of those stars. It is a very peculiar color that I've learned to recognize. And how long ago did I recognize it? Okay, I'll give my date. You can look me up on Facebook and know how old I really am anyway. But I celebrated my 64th birthday this past Sunday. And when I was 10 years old, I think I first located Uranus and a Neptune. And one of the things that I did not read in my books, and I noticed right away, is that I could recognize them in a 6x30 finder. Why? The color was off. Something told me that color is it's not like blazingly obvious, but it's so unlike the other stars. The other thing was I noticed that it wasn't blinking, so it wasn't twinkling. I centered it on the finder, looked at the scope, there it was. There it was.
Dave, great input, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And that wasn't a dumb question. I just hope I didn't give a dumb answer.
David.
Dave, this is John O'Brien.
Okay, John.
Hello?
Yes, who is this? Wait a second. Yeah, but wait a second. Let John speak first.
That's Jack. He was in first. Let him go.
Oh, okay. Well, let Jack speak first. Then.
Oh, just a quick question. As I recall, the field of view of the 12-inch Zeiss with that monster 120 millimeter eyepiece was about 1.5 degrees, as I recall.
Oh, if you say so. I just know that a much closer comparison is the F12 8-inch scope at Garvey Ranch Park, which I'm very familiar with. As a matter of fact, I know that the field of view with a 50 millimeter is 1 degree, because when things really get tough in those pristine dark skies at Garvey Ranch Park, I often use that eyepiece through the 8-inch as the last home in to try and find objects.
Yeah.
Because sometimes these objects are, the brightest star there is 8th mag, and I'm going, oh, you bastard. And so I have to use that. I've used that several times in the recent past. That little trick. Sometimes.
Yeah. What problem we've got around here in the Denver area? We have a 20-inch refractor, and
oh wow!
And the seeing is absurd around here. If we get 5 arc seconds, we write letters about it.
Oh wait! But Denver's at 5,000 feet. I would expect you to have better seeing.
Yeah, horrible.
Oh, we're right in the lee of the turbulence of the Rocky Mountains. It's the same thing that'll bounce you all over the cabin of an airplane.
And I was gonna move there in my later years. Okay, so much for that, off my list.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. Everybody
by moving there and observing, yeah, that means the 20-inch refractor is underutilized because it just won't perform under those conditions. I really, my heart really bleeds for you. It really does.
And light pollution around here is terminal.
Oh yeah, but you can kick around a little bit of that, but bad seeing will, as Richard and I both know, bad seeing means your photography is going down the tubes,
right,
in a big fat hurry.
I can deal with light pollution all day long.
Oh yeah, but
seeing kills all of us. Hey, John,
Yes?
I want to say thanks for showing up. You were late, so Daryl had me do the Lockwood update.
And he did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to the seeing problem here. We had a star party, and we had kind of a very humid fog
no.
And so we decided we better go shut down the telescope. Well, on the observing floor, it was still clear. So we cranked up the old 20, and holy cow, the image of Saturn looked like something from Cassini.
And we would have been able to read the labels on the moons if we could find a 7mm eyepiece. The best we could find was a 9mm. But once, I've been here about a half a century now, that was one night.
Oh God. Oh God.
Hey, David.
Anyway, John O'Brien was next. John,
David, quick thing. If you're done with your presentation, go ahead and stop sharing, and then all of our little windows will get bigger.
well, just in case, because it was still in the question and answer period, and as I said,
Oh,
John
no
was
worries.
the next one.
No. Just letting you know you were still sharing your screen.
And that's the reason why. John, you had a question?
Yes. How long would they have to wait before they could observe any motion in Neptune to confirm that it was a planet?
Oh, with a good thing I had the start shut up. My guess is the next night.
Really?
Because unless this is near the point where retrograde motion begins or retrograde motion ends, which is where all objects in the solar system are basically standing still. If you're away from those 2 points, this thing is going to have appreciable movement. Remember, and I know that because in 2015, when I successfully photographed Pluto at Griffith Observatory, I verified it. I knew it was from position, but I verified it because in 1 hour with a 1 degree field of view on my camera, Pluto moved. It visibly moved in one hour.
Wow.
Now it moved just a little bit, so I had to do the Clyde Tombaugh trick of flipping images back and forth. But there was one very faint star that went blink, 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 blink back and forth, and then I told Dr. Danley, I just verified that what we've been saying was Pluto for the last hour is indeed Pluto. So Neptune being not as bad as that and being quite a bit brighter, I would say that within 1 night, which is what they had, 1 night, if they positioned it accurately, they will see it move. So that doesn't surprise me. It may only move maybe 10 arc minutes or something like that, and I'm just guessing there. But if you accurately plot it against the stars there, you'll see it. And that's how they verified. They verified it the next night because they could see a disk, and they verified it because they saw the darn thing move, and the movement was just too slow to be anything anywhere near the Earth. Couldn't have been an asteroid, for instance. No.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Yeah, Dave, it's Daryl.
Okay, Daryl.
Just wanted to verify that the dates and on there that are, it says Neptune in its circle, it says August 26th, 2011, and then it's a circle on 28th. Is that the same 2 days later?
Oh, no. You got to understand that whoever developed this chart wanted to show 2 things. He wanted to show Neptune's discovery position as opposed to Leverrier's prediction, as opposed to Adams' predictions. But he also apparently wanted to show, and I'm guessing this was developed in 2011, he wanted to show that year, Neptune is right back where it started from. It took a full Neptunian year to get to that point, because remember, this Neptune position that they observed was in 1846. And it took that long. I think it's 80 some odd years for Neptune to go all the way around the sun. So finally in 2011, this guy says, hey, you want to see what Galilei saw? This is your best chance. The closest chance was obviously October 18th. And because this is moving this way, this was near the opposition point because it's retrograding. See that arrow? It's going backwards.
Yeah.
So that's what I think you're seeing. You're seeing 2 things here. You're seeing the predicted positions against the actually observed position, and then this extra stuff showing that, hey, we're going to recreate history right now, especially close to October the 18th of 2011. Of course, Neptune has moved considerably on since then, but that would have been nice. That didn't attract me at the time, and it still doesn't. It still wouldn't attract me now. But that would have been nice to fake a photograph of that and say, see, this is what they photographed in 1846. Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. Very
Hey,
good.
Dave,
Yes.
Dave, comment I'll make. I think the 2011 timeframe was the first time it got around.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought you said the second time it got
No,
around.
first time.
Well, you mentioned 80 something years, and it's been 150, almost 150 years since it was found. So it takes about 140 years to get around.
I'll look that up. I'll look
Yeah,
that up
just a little
again.
error you made.
No.
but
I looked that up again. Maybe it's the second time it's been around.
No, I think it's the first time. I think 2011 is the first time it made it around.
Okay, I'll check it as soon as
'Cause
I quit sharing screen.
I think Uranus was about 70 or something like that years.
Okay, I'll check on that. Anybody else with a
Curtis.
question?
No, thanks, Curtis. And David, thank you very much. That was quite the talk. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Good talk, Dave.
Kudos
Oh,
from
thank
me.
you. Thank you, everyone.
I just dropped the
Good job, Dave.
raffle.
Oh, thank you.
raffle-
Thank you.
I just dropped the raffle link in the chat.
No, nobody gets a prize tonight. Just
I will
kidding.
do it one more time.
No,
Okay.
are you kidding? I signed up like 30 seconds after the meeting started. What do you guys
Well,
do? I still on my laser, damn it.
So do I. That's why I don't compete, because after many years, I figured, nah, I'm just not that lucky enough. Well, you got to remember, this is the guy that the last time he bowled in the league, they had a raffle, and for 34 times I put in my buck and got nothing, and then the 35th time I won, and I won 35 bucks back. So at least I broke even, but it's like, I forget these odds. I give up. Yeah, Curtis is right. It's 165, just short of 165 years to get around once around the sun. So that means that's the first time that Neptune did that. Got back to where it once belonged. So thanks,
And
Curtis.
Pluto hasn't made it around yet.
Well, we're going to have to all have cybernetic parts for that to occur.
By
And
the way,
that's
guys,
assuming the brain doesn't deteriorate in that amount of time.
I have a friend with me who's kind of hanging out tonight. I called him over to join us just to see what this is like. I'm going to try and get him into the club soon. His name is Brian. He's actually a rocket scientist at some level. He works for a company called ABL.
Yeah, I work for one of the private companies competing for the small lift launch market, ABL Space Systems. And, he's my 2 doors down next door neighbor, and saw him out with a telescope one day and wanted to chat. So
All right.
We're going to get him into the club soon.
great presentation.
Hi, Brian.
Yeah,
Welcome,
Richard.
Brian.
Yeah. Hi, Brian. Yeah, Richard, just don't use a cattle prod, okay?
I know. Well, no. I normally use whiskey, but he's not drinking tonight. I had to give him a bottle.
You got to catch him in a weak moment there.
I
Yeah, whiskey
know.
works very well. Before he knows it, he'll be a lifetime member.
I know, right?
That's what I'll drink to celebrate.
By the way, he finds all of this incredibly fascinating. He really enjoyed David's presentation tonight, and he will probably show up at a star party soon. Yeah, we're gonna get him in the club.
Yep. Now this Wednesday we're going to be a little crowded at the Garvey Ranch, but Garvey Ranch is open. Pretty sure we even open it, not the observatory, but the grounds on a rainy day. We just can't open up the observatory for obvious reasons. But somebody's almost always there on Wednesdays. So if you're in the area, drop on by it. We officially open it, like I say, at 7:30, and we have to close up at about 10 because well, actually, I don't know why, because we just closed down at 10.
Hey, Brian, Why don't you come over this Wednesday night with Richard and sit in on my career panel for the young guys?
I was gonna.
Hey, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
I absolutely.
Oh, David,
What?
a comment for David. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
9:30.
Anyway, if you could make it, that would be great. Just that your age and all the new opportunities in an astronomy related field like rocket science, they probably never met anyone close to the kind of work you do. It would be really cool. And
I'll tell them at work when they're trying to make us work the long hours. I gotta go educate the next generation.
well, that's what they need to know. No one tells them how to prepare for a career in these fields, and someone your age that's been through it more recently than some of the other guys in the club. You know what I mean?
All right, I know what you're saying. I worked 20 years at JPL. I would still be there if they hadn't canned my butt in 2002, along with 2,500 other people.
Well, David, you're on the panel if you're on the panel if you're not manning the scope, but you're probably manning the scope that night. So, all right, thanks a lot. That's great. Really, if you make it, thanks in advance.
I'll try to.
Richard, now you can use the cattle prod. Make sure he makes it. Okay?
David, how are they doing it? Getting re-staffed over at Griffith?
It's slow. So far, we've avoided closing down the planetarium when we're short-staffed. We have to close down the planetarium, but we're trying to open up Thursdays. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen anytime soon. And Lord only knows until we open up and get enough people there. There's one thing is for sure. We can't hold any public star parties up there because some of the people that normally are inside the building have to be outside to assist us. That's just the way the thing is set up, and that's for liability reasons. That's at least my impression was that's for liability reasons. So we got to wait.
I was also hoping to get back there like on a Monday night, back to Leonard Nimoy Theater for us.
Yeah, I would prefer giving that. And we've discussed when we do get back in there on Monday nights that we're going to Zoom some of these for people like Jack that decided to move into even more turbulent skies than he experienced in LA. Not to take a dig at him.
Yeah,
but I will.
Well, Daryl is getting ready for the drawing. You might want to tell people about the signs of life. Are you working on that? I think.
There's no longer any work being done on it. It's been released to the public. Unfortunately, for some reason, the soundtrack has not. I wanted a copy of the soundtrack. Mark Pine somebody assured him it was going to be out last weekend.
Really?
And I checked, not this one we just passed, but the one before that. I checked, and it's not there yet on iTunes. So I don't know if somebody changed their mind or what the heck's going on. But yeah.
Okay, appreciate it.
Sure.
How are we doing, Daryl?
Okay, I'm having a little problem getting the form site download to go to me because I'm not used to doing
Okay,
this,
keep flooding it, people. We got to win sooner or later.
So you guys keep chatting until I figure it out.
Yeah, he doesn't know we're flooding that database right now. They don't.
Wait, are we allowed to enter more than once?
No, that's a joke. But knowing you, Richard, I would expect that from you.
Dude, you were talking about flooding the database. I only enter once. How many times did you enter?
See this grin? This is not my serious grin. Learn to read faces, for crying out loud.
Hey, do we have any golfers in the gang?
No. Who was that?
You asked why?
I heard something in the background.
I would think golf and astronomy wouldn't mix because you have to do golf for the most part during the daytime, and that takes away from nighttime observing.
Right.
And I mean that seriously.
No. Chris is a golfer. Valdia.
Well, golf ball kind of looks like the moon.
Yeah, well, it looks even more like the moon when you hit the hell out of it and it goes 300 yards that way.
No. I thought then it resembled a meteor. What did I miss here?
No, I don't. I did a golf tournament. You guys are gonna love this. I did it. I've had 2 weekends in a row in the desert. The weekend before, I did light painting in Joshua Tree. And this last weekend, I did a golf tournament in Palm Springs. And on the, what was it, the record highest heat wave we've ever had?
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
112 is what it was.
Saturday it was a 2-day tournament. So you took the 2 different days and you had them, whatever. Saturday, when we finished, it was 115 or 116.
See, this is why I prefer astronomy, because unless the monsoonal flow comes in with 90-90,
yeah,
you're not going to experience anything
cool.
like that.
Right. By the way, you guys want to see something cool? I don't know. Okay, fine. No, you want? If I share my screen real quick.
I believe I am ready.
Okay.
So I will need to share. I will need to share screen.
Bless you.
Is it
Oh, thank you.
It's gonna.
Is that right?
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Does everyone see the?
Oh, so Daryl's doing it tonight. Wow.
I guess
Everyone see
nobody
the screen
entered.
with
I
the
see a
drawing
blank.
link in
I
the
see a
form
blank
site?
spreadsheet.
Okay, so I'm ready to drop the names in. When I drop the names in, we'll get the first winner.
Or prizes.
Careful.
Here we go. First winner is Jose.
All right. Sounds
Hey,
good.
Jose.
Jose.
Oh, here we go.
And Alicia will be announcing what Jose has won.
Jose won an Amazon gift card.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
May I ask how much?
25.
$5.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Okay, the next winner is Thomas Floyd Trimbaugh.
And what did he win? Is he even with us?
Is Thomas on?
I haven't heard him yet.
You have to move up.
Don't see him. I forgot if the rules, do they need to be present?
Yes.
Yes.
It would help.
Wait a minute. What do you mean present? We're all virtually present, but we're not together in a room. I mean,
No, David, do not start that one. You will lose that argument with me. Do not.
I thought it was a legitimate argument. I
Do
mean,
not do it.
oh boy.
David, don't mess with
to
Alicia.
respond in
David, don't mess with Alicia, Dave, whatever you do.
Oh, but it's been so boring at this end of the
Yeah,
Zoom
yeah,
channel. I need some. You know.
Let him finish. Let him finish. Go ahead.
Okay, so
what is
the
it?
answer is.
Tom, we'll go with it. It's okay. Thomas won an LAAS hat. I can reach out to him.
Right, so you'll contact him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
I see he's down here as well.
Hey, it's Coop.
Hey, Cooper.
Hey.
Hey, Coop got one.
Steve won a
Oh, I
laser.
did. Hey, great. Thank you.
So what did you win?
And Brian Ederling.
What did Steve win?
I think she said laser.
Oh, he got the laser.
Oh, God.
Don't worry.
Oh, fudge.
David, I'll do it during the planetarium show.
You already got a laser for the planetarium show. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
but that's green.
Let's see what's Brian. Okay, his,
What do you
here's
want?
Brian.
That blue one that burns a hole in your hand? The one that Geo has?
Oh,
Are we all set for Brian?
Yes, Brian won a Celestron Observer's map of the
Ooh,
Okay.
that's good.
Oops, not one.
Gotta love Excel.
It works
Jim.
well. Oh, Jim.
Go.
hey, Jim.
All
Hey,
right.
Jim.
Well, there you go. See, you attend a meeting and you win.
What do you know?
That's not fair. I've attended most meetings. I haven't won jack.
That, no, so that Jim's the sort of new guy.
So Jim won a red flashlight.
A red
Ah.
flashlight coming your way.
Oh, nice.
Very good.
Let's use more red flashlights.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, especially at dark sites.
Yeah.
How many more, Alicia?
One more.
One more.
And
That would be Roy Carpena. Carpena. Here? No? Left early?
Uh-oh.
well, we lost 8 participants somewhere along the line.
They jumped ship. Okay. Well, if that was the last one, then you'll just, I'll send you the email addresses
Okay.
for
Yeah.
everyone in the list.
So, guys, funny story. You know how we always talk about red, right? No
Hold on,
white.
hold on
light.
one second, Richard. Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
I think we can, if we're done with the drawing, we can
Right.
officially end the meeting so that we can stop the recording.
Okay.
And